Good evening. I'm calling the regular meeting of the University Place City Council for Monday, June 21st, 2021 to order. We are conducting our meeting remotely in compliance with the Special Open Public Meeting Act rules issued by Governor Inslee's emergency order. As a reminder to the public, participation in the public comments and public testimony and public hearings portion of this meeting will continue to be accepted by email. Comments received by 5:30 deadline will be electronically provided to City Council for their consideration, and subject to technological limitations, the Council will also accept telephonic comments. Members of the public can call 1-509-342-7253, conference ID 978-259-280#. For those calling in, please be advised that calls are taken in the order they are received. City Clerk, can you please call roll?
Yes, Mayor. Councilmember Figueroa.
Councilmember Figueroa present.
Councilmember Keel. Councilmember Pro Tem Lee.
Councilmember Pro Tem Lee present.
Councilmember McCluskey.
Councilmember McCluskey present.
Councilmember Fleming.
Councilmember Fleming here.
Mayor Pro Tem Worthington. And Mayor Bellisi.
Mayor Bellisi here.
Mayor, you have a quorum.
Thank you. May I call for a motion to excuse Mayor Pro Tem Worthington and Councilmember Keel this evening, please?
Mayor, this is Councilmember Figueroa. Make a motion to excuse Councilmember Keel and Councilmember Worthington.
Thank you.
Okay, Councilmember McCluskey seconds that motion.
Thank you, Councilmember McCluskey. Are there any objections to the motion as presented? Not hearing or seeing any, motion carries. At this evening, Councilmember Figueroa, can you please lead us in Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Figueroa. May I have a motion to call for approval of the agenda as submitted?
Mayor, this is Councilmember Figueroa. I make a motion to approve the agenda.
I have a first. Do I have a second?
Yes, Councilmember McCluskey seconds that motion.
Okay, I have a first and a second. Are there any objections? Not seeing any, not hearing any, the motion carries. Thank you. Okay, this evening we have a proclamation, proclamation for the Juneteenth recent holiday, federal holiday. Just for some background information, both the Washington State Senate and House passed a bill making Juneteenth a federally recognized holiday. President Biden signed legislation on Thursday, June 17th, 2021, to make Juneteenth a federal holiday, enshrining June 19th as the national day to commemorate the end of slavery in the United States. This is the first action of an important day of recognition since Martin Luther King Jr. was established in 1983. It has been 38 years since the addition of a holiday has been made on a federal level. The state of Washington will be recognizing this holiday for all employees in the state next year, as they just recently passed that legislation and for the citizens. So this is a proclamation, City of University Place. Whereas Juneteenth, also known as Freedom Day, Jubilee Day, Liberation Day, and Emancipation Day, is a holiday celebrating the emancipation of those who had been enslaved in the United States. And whereas on June 19, 1865, General Gordon Granger announced that slaves in Texas were free by order of the President of the United States. The announcement came 2.5 years after President Lincoln's Emancipation Proclamation, which had become official January 1st, 1863. And whereas free men in Texas organized the first of what became the annual celebration of Jubilee Day on June 19th, and whereas June 19 has a special meaning to African Americans, it is called Juneteenth, combining the words June and 19th, and has been celebrated by the African American community for 150 years. Now, therefore, the City Council of the City of University Place encourages everyone to observe Juneteenth as an opportunity to reflect, rejoice, and plan for a brighter future as we continue to address racial injustice in our society today, proclaimed by the City Council of the City of University Place on June 21st, 2021. Thank you. As I noted, our next section is public comment. As of this evening at 5:30, we had received no public comment via email, and I am not aware of any public being on our meeting this evening, so the public comment section is closed. Next item on the agenda is our consent agenda. May I have a motion to approve the consent agenda as submitted?
Mayor, this is Councilmember Figueroa. I make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Okay, I have a first. Do I have a second?
Councilmember McCluskey seconds that motion.
Okay, I have a first and a second. Are there any objections to approving the consent agenda as submitted? Okay, not seeing any or not hearing any, motion carries. All right, the next item on our agenda is council consideration. We have 3 items in this section for public comment and council consideration. The first is our University Place Housing Action Toolkit. We have had previous study sessions on this, and so tonight it is on our agenda for consideration. But before that, may I have a staff report from David Swindell? Mr. Swindell.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, members of the City Council. Tonight, we're asking the City Council to consider adopting a resolution. By resolution, the University Place Housing Action Toolkit to encourage the construction of additional affordable and market rate housing in a greater variety of housing types and at prices that are accessible to a greater variety of incomes, including strategies aimed at for-profit single-family home market. As we have reviewed with you in the past, the Growth Management Act requires the city to review and, if needed, update its comprehensive plan by 2024, including a housing element that ensures the vitality and character of established residential neighborhoods, an inventory and analysis of existing and projected housing needs that identifies the number of housing units necessary to manage projected growth, a statement of goals, policies, objectives, and mandatory provisions for the preservation, improvement, and development of housing, including single family, and identifies sufficient land for housing and makes adequate provisions for existing and projected needs for all economic segments of the community. During the 2019 legislative session, the Washington State Department of Commerce received $5 million to provide grant funds to local governments for activities to increase residential building capacity, streamline development, or develop a housing action plan. Taking advantage of these available funds for the required comprehensive plan update, the city applied for and received a no-match grant to develop a housing action plan. To inform the city of existing housing inventory and future housing needs, and to develop actions to encourage the construction of affordable and market rate housing in a greater variety of housing types. The city conducted 2 public meetings with area stakeholders and subject matter experts, conducted an extensive public outreach program that included a web page with over 800 page views,
You Merit as a guest.
social media posts on Facebook and Twitter, several articles in the city's bi-monthly electronic headlines newsletter, a postcard that we mailed to 19,914 addresses in 2 zip codes, and a flash vote survey that generated more than 300 responses. The Planning Commission held 2 public meetings, after which the commission unanimously recommended the Housing Action Plan to the City Council. And the City Council reviewed the plan during 2 study sessions and requested the plan be called a toolkit. So that is, we have reworded the title of the plan to the University Housing Action Toolkit and changed a number of references to the plan to toolkit. And once again, this is, we're asking you to consider adopting a resolution this evening to adopt the resolution and the Housing Action Plan Toolkit. That concludes my staff report, unless you have any questions.
Okay, this is a public consideration, so public comment is warranted this evening. However, we did not receive any emails as of 5:30 this evening, nor are there any public on our meeting this evening. So I will close the public comment section and open it up for council consideration. Do I have a motion for consideration, please?
Mayor, this is Councilman Figueroa. I make a motion to adopt by resolution the University Place Housing Action Toolkit to encourage construction of additional affordable and market rate housing and a greater variety of housing types and at prices that are accessible to a greater variety of incomes, including strategies aimed at the for-profit single-family home market.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Mayor Belisi, this is Councilmember McCluskey, and I second the motion.
Okay, I have a first and a second. Do I have an, and we are now open for discussion and questions. Are there any comments or questions at this time? You may raise your hand. Okay, I know we have discussed this extensively in the past, so I'm not surprised that we don't have any questions. So I will let audience members know that are either watching or will be watching in the future that we grilled our staff on this on prior study sessions. So at this time, if there are no comments or questions, I will call for a vote. May I have the roll call vote?
Yes, Mayor. Councilmember Figueroa,
Councilmember Figueroa, aye.
Councilmember Pro Tem Lee,
Councilmember Pro Tem Lee, aye.
Councilmember McCluskey,
Councilmember McCluskey, aye.
Councilmember Fleming,
Councilmember Fleming, aye.
and Mayor Belisi.
Mayor Belisi, aye.
The motion carries, Mayor.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Swindell. Our next item for council consideration is the Alameda Extension Bid Award. For that, I will ask Jack Eklund to come forward and on camera to present his report.
Thank you, Madam Mayor and City Council. I'm Jack Eklund, Director of Engineering, and tonight I'm bringing to you for your consideration the bid award for the Alameda Extension Project. Now, this is the project that is going to construct the missing segment of Alameda between 67th and 64th Avenues, which is in the vicinity of the Harvest Ridge residential development. Bid opening was held on June 10th. We received 9 bids. Of the bids, you can see the summary of the bids received in both your council bill as well as a tabulation of the individual items. Of the bids, Reed Trunking Excavating submitted the lowest responsible bid in the amount of $981,798.00. I do want to note that I have, just from a schedule standpoint, I've spoken with the contractor, and it is a little bit different climate these days on material procurement. And so normally when we do a bid award, usually within a month, we're starting constructing the road. He's anticipating a little longer on this, maybe even out as far as the end of August to actually be physically on the ground due to material procurement. The two of the first big items are both retaining wall, building retaining wall, as well as a storm drainage detention tank that would need infiltration / detention tank. And so both of those, he's been experiencing fairly long delays in getting that. So, but even with that delayed start, he anticipates still being complete by the end of the year and doesn't foresee any issue on getting done within the working days. With that, I'd be happy to answer any question and certainly recommend the award of the contract to Reed Trucking and Excavating.
Okay. Again, this is for council consideration, so we do open it for public comment. We have not received any emails regarding this, nor do we have public on our video or meeting this evening, so I will close the public comment section. I do ask for a motion so that we can have council consideration on this.
Mayor, this is Councilmember Figueroa, and I make a motion to authorize the city manager to award the Alameda Extension project to Reed Trucking and Excavation in the amount of $981,798 and execute all necessary contract documents.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Mayor Belisi, Councilmember McCluskey, and I second that motion.
Okay, I have a first and a second. We are now open for discussion and questions. Do we have any questions of Mr. Eklund at this time? Okay, seeing none. Mr. Eklund, I think you did a beautiful job in presenting the bid award and all the required information. So with that, I will call for a motion and ask our city clerk to do a roll call vote, please.
Councilmember Figueroa,
Councilmember Figueroa, aye.
Councilmember Pro Tem Lee,
Councilmember Pro Tem Lee, aye.
Councilmember McCluskey,
Councilmember McCluskey, aye.
Councilmember Fleming,
Councilmember Fleming, aye.
Mayor Belisi.
Mayor Belisi, aye.
The motion carries.
Thank you, ma'am. So we're on to, thank you, Mr. Eklund.
Thank you.
We are on to our next item, the Homestead Park Design Services Agreement. Again, we have had discussions regarding Homestead Park in the past in study session, and we are now moving forward on the design services aspect of what we have previously had study session on. So with that, I will hand it over to Mr. Gary Cooper to present our staff report.
Good meeting, Madam Mayor and council members. This is Gary Cooper. I'm the Director of Parks and Public Works. And this evening, we'll bring forward to you the GGLO Homestead Park presentation. On July 7th of this year, GGLO presented to council renderings and conceptual plans of the renovation for Homestead Park. The next phase of this project is developing conceptual plans to design and bid documents and ready to go out to bid for the project. This project anticipated to take 5 months and include status checks with both the Parks Commission and Park Advisory Commission and City Council at the 50%, 70%, and final design stage before going out to bid. The proposed action staff is requesting the council tonight is to authorize the city manager to execute a professional services agreement with GGLO Architecture for the design and contract development services for Homestead Park renovation project in an amount not to exceed $282,960.00. And with that, Madam Mayor, I'll turn it back for questions.
Thank you, Mr. Cooper. Again, this is council consideration, so we do have a public comment section. And as stated in the previous two public comment sections, we have not received any emails in regards to this, nor do we have public in attendance at our meeting this evening. So I will close the public comment section and open it up for motion on this item so that we can ask questions and comment on it. Do I have a motion?
Mayor, this is Councilmember Figueroa, making a motion to authorize the city manager to execute a professional service agreement with GGLO Architecture for design and contract development services for Homestead Park renovation project in an amount not to exceed $282,960.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Mayor Bellici, this is Councilmember McCluskey, and I second the proposal.
Okay, so I have a first and a second. We are now open for comments and discussion. Do we have any questions of Mr. Cooper in regards to this item? May I see a raise of hands? I am assuming, since you nodded, Councilmember McCluskey, that you are the first. Go ahead.
Mayor Bellici, I thought I raised my hand, but I guess I didn't fully raise it. Okay. Well, I have a couple questions, Mr. Cooper, and one is just a logistics question. Is that the wild side is zoned park, correct?
The wild side is a separate portion of the park, correct? Not included in this proposal.
Right. I know it's not included in the proposal, but is it also, I know it's called informally the wild side, but is it also titled Homestead Park? Do you remember? I can't remember.
I don't think it was ever titled officially as Homestead Park. It was something we gained later after, it got split through there. So it wasn't part of the Homestead Park parcel. I believe we've called it the wild side. I don't believe it's ever been officially designated. It does show on my parks map, but I don't think there's ever anything official designating it, no.
Okay. So is it zoned parks though?
Correct.
Is it
Yes.
correct? Okay.
Yes.
All right. All right. All right. Thank you. Because I think that might be strategic in with the roadies. If we need additional space, and I think you were kind of alluding to some of those ideas.
I think you can say that's correct. I think that any roadies that need to be moved, that would be our first location we would look to help enhance that area.
Okay. And in this proposal, I didn't see any roadie design in deliverables for their to. Can you hear me okay? Because I have a train going in the background. So I was wondering, is that's not part of the outcome? And I was assuming that would be the rhododendron, or better words or terms, action plan.
Yeah, I think that's included into the portion where Dr. Becker is included in there. So we're going to lean on him heavily for his advice.
Yeah, I saw it in the other document, but I didn't really see it here. I was looking for it like around page 3.
Yeah, that may not be called out in here, but it is definitely part of our original and still is part of our plans as to working with Dr. Becker. And I did talk to him just 3 weeks ago. Still, he's waiting for his chance to come out.
Okay, great. That'll be wonderful. Like I saw the tree protection, and so I didn't see the roadies. All right, and that's all my questions, Mr. Cooper. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember McCluskey. Anybody else have questions or comments at this time? Okay, I know we have discussed this intently, so I'm not surprised that we don't have any questions. So not seeing any comments or questions at this time, I will call for a roll call vote, please.
Councilmember Figueroa,
Councilmember Figueroa, aye.
Councilmember Pro Tem Lee,
Councilmember Pro Tem Lee, aye.
Councilmember McCluskey,
Councilmember McCluskey, aye.
Councilmember Fleming,
Councilmember Fleming, aye.
and Mayor Bellici.
Mayor Bellici, aye.
The motion carries, Mayor.
Thank you, and thank you, Mr. Cooper. And we look forward to getting updates on the progress of this plan and design.
Thank you. Have a good evening.
Yeah, you too. At this time, we're at our next section, which is the city manager report, and followed by council comments and reports. So, Mr. Sugg, the stage is yours.
Thank you, Madam Mayor and members of the council. 4th of July is just around the corner, and more fireworks start popping up around the region. However, there are no fireworks stands in University Place. You can't purchase them in University Place. There's no authorized vendors selling fireworks this year in UP. So residents would have to venture out to other areas, Lakewood, for example, or unincorporated Pierce County, to purchase legal fireworks. And once again, to remind the folks that are listening, and this was also on our website as well, on our homepage and social media, legal fireworks in UP, as per the council's directives a couple of years ago, include these following items: fountains, cones, novelties, smokes and sparklers, and morning glories. There is plenty of information on our website so people can re-educate themselves on what is legal and what is not. And we've got a really good graphic there for them to look at. They can print it off if they wish when they take it to purchase their fireworks. But it's only those legal fireworks, the few that I mentioned, that are legal in University Place. So without, and also just note, you have to be 16 years of age or older to purchase them, and you have to be under the direct supervision of an adult, and only on the 4th of July between the hours of 9 a.m. and 12 midnight. So wanted to just remind everyone, because it's that time of year again, and to be kind to your neighbors. So with that, Mayor, I'm going to turn it back to you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Sugg. We're on our council comments and report outs, so I will go through roll call and see if you have any comments or report outs. Councilmember Figueroa, you are first on the list.
Mayor, this is Councilmember Figueroa. Just a small comment here, and that was on city manager's comment on the fireworks. And I'm really pleased. I think, how long has that been, Steve? About 3 years now, or Mayor, I should say, is about 3 years since we enacted that ordinance. Mm-hmm. And I remember how we debated that. We were, concerned about people's freedom of fire lighting up the city, to nonprofits not being able to sell goods on the fire during the fire and raising money for their needs, to people trucking in and illegally trucking in a bunch of fireworks from other places. And in the 3 years, I can say that I have not had any issues coming to me, and I usually get them, just like the rest of you guys. It's got your phone number ready to dial. And I'm really happy to see that our ordinance that we debated quite well to come out the way it is coming out now, where the public seems to be pretty much satisfied as to, yes, we still have noises, we still have certain things going on, there's still some loud ones, all that, but for overall, if you look at the big picture, I think that we passed a very good ordinance, allows people to enjoy some minor fireworks with their children, and still have our major concern, which was public safety during the 4th of July, along with noise. So thanks a lot for everybody. I think we did a good job.
Thank you, Councilmember Figueroa. Councilmember Pro Tem Lee, any comments or report outs at this time?
Councilmember Pro Tem Lee, I'd like to report that Moody's recently issued their annual issuer comment report on the city's outstanding general obligation bonds. This is not a formal ratings review. The city's rating remains at AA2, which is only one level below Moody's highest rating. Moody's stated that the city has a very good credit position based largely on the city's strong finances. Of particular note, they observed that the city's fund balance as a percentage of operating revenues and the city's cash balance as a percent of operating revenues are far superior to other Moody's rated cities nationwide. You can read this report further. It's on the city website under the finance section. Thank you. That's all I have.
Thank you, Councilmember Pro Tem Lee. Next person, Councilmember McCluskey. Do you have any comments or report outs at this time?
Yes, I do, Mayor Belisi. Thank you. Well, Councilmember Pro Tem Lee, that was sweet news to my ears. I'd like to thank all the council members and especially our city staff, city manager, finance director, and assistant city manager and everyone else who was involved to keeping the ship from sinking any further and righting it and actually getting us into the green zone, which is where, as a business person, I like to see a business so we can be a continuing entity in the long term. So I am very blessed that that's a great outcome for my ears. I'm very excited. So thank you. And then the other report I had was the Zoo Trek Authority. I was had a meeting on June 9th, and they talked intensely, and they're going to continue to report out on each meeting of the Zoo Trek Authority, future accessibility and inclusion. They talked about their past history with that, and also kind of how they stumbled a little bit because of COVID, but they're getting back up to speed, and through COVID has learned more things to do. And so the board will be hearing more updates to that because that will be on their radar, where before they were just on survival mode, keeping the animals alive in particular. And some of the things that they have included, and they had been including, was flags for Juneteenth, as well as the Rainbow Center flag and for the Pride. Their finances are looking just as good as our cities. They have a 6.9 million cash flow, and they're very blessed and thankful for all the online sales tax, because the actuals were well over and exceeded their expectations, which was very conservatively driven, just like our budget. You know, they have a conservative model to it. They also, as you know, had to cut staff in order to get to that point. But they are having a consultant come on, which is typical in the life of the zoo for accreditation, and that will have some long-term strategies and goals for them, and creating, in addition, a master business plan. And they're also, I'm sure, will ask the voters for an increase to establish some of their projects and ideas when that time is right, and after extensive public comments. So they're going to go out to the public quite a bit during this business strategy session as well. Animal updates are the Tamandua, the little pup that was born. They named it Liana. Raja the tiger, as you probably read in the newspaper, is acclimating really well and is interested in a female, so that there could be some pups along its way once they let Raja on the loose to get a little extra close, besides being fenced off from his potential soulmate. Bjorn sea lion came to the zoo, and they had extensive shark bites, and it won't be released to the wild, but it has found a new home and is recovering quite well. And so it's doing well. It was blind, and it also had several gunshot wounds, so it was quite injured in numerous ways. Suki, the elephant that was transferred to another zoo, is loving it. It has a new environment that has a few acres to it, and he is enjoying life in her golden years, because she was quite old, and so she loves the mud baths, and so she rolls in the mud baths, so she has a lot more freedom, really enjoying her new digs. Zoo will open all of its attractions, but the Little Bungees will not be open until probably next year, because the Little Bungees got quite comfortable with no people going around. So it has to get used to people invading their space. So, you know, there is some downside of the COVID. So they're getting retrained so that they can be amongst the little and big explorers that go through there. There is also a new little explorer zone that will be built up. It's budgeted and it's on set to be built out, and where the camels were, and it's a nature play, and that's hands-on, and so that butterfly herb gardens going in there, and so that's coming on board. And Northwest Trek had several little babies, so it was baby season for several of the animals, the bighorn sheep and some others. I won't go into the details there. And they're doing a couple projects with the bat population. There is white nose symptoms on the bats that's pretty detrimental to the bats. And so they're keeping tabs on that so it doesn't get into our bat colonies here on the Northwest. And so they're over there swabbing the bats' noses. And so far there's no signs of those runny noses in there. And they are also on the leopard frog that was endangered. The zoo Northwest Trek was in particularly noted for their project, and so that is encouraging. And they have 50 plus tadpoles that have survived, so they're at like a 90+% survival rating. Trams are coming up, and so there should be some new trams popping in, and the new tram station will have its groundbreaking in spring, and so they're hoping that will open. All of that will open with new trams, all electric, really cool, huge, big sunroof that goes all the way down the top part of it. So that will be hopefully opening in the spring of next year. And so accessibility is still vital, and mobility, and so they're looking at that and making all the adjustments that are necessary, so that people who want to come to the zoo can come to the zoo, no matter what social economic stratus they are, or also their physical mobility and shape. They're increasing their virtual online learning experiences through the school, especially Puyallup School District, and also online, and it is becoming well-known globally, worldwide. So they're having, thousands of hits on their virtual online experiences. And I think that's all I have for the zoo, which is always a fun place to be, whether it's virtually or not. So I do like to encourage everyone to, at least if you can't get to the zoo, try it online. Try the virtual zoo tour.
Thank you, Councilmember McCluskey. Councilmember Fleming, do you have any comments or report outs at this time?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'll be brief. To Councilmember McCluskey's comment about bats, it goes to show that it's not just humans who are getting their noses swabbed these days. So we're sharing alike. I do want to also echo your comments, Councilmember McCluskey, to Councilmember Lee, and especially to the city staff. That's a huge, to any of the public who pays attention to what we're doing here at the city. That Moody's rating is huge. It is absolutely huge, and it really is an accolade to our city manager and our finance director and the hard work that they do to get that rating up. That has a major impact on the city's finances, and it's not easy, having appeared before Moody's myself once before. That's a heavy lift, and they did a great job. So they deserve all the accolades for that one. Changing gears real quickly, the physician in me would be remiss if I didn't remind people today's the first day of summer. The end of this month, it will also signal the end of a lot of the restrictions we've had with COVID, but it should not signal the end of COVID. It's really a time for us to increase our vigilance. When we're out in public, do what's prudent. Don't do what's wild and crazy because of all the pent up energy that folks have. So please, to our citizens, be mindful that COVID is still alive and well, and we are beginning to see the emergence of the newer strains in the younger population. No, the second part of that is just water safety as we get into summer. We've already seen a higher than normal loss of life and drownings and water accidents on our lakes and rivers. So as people recreate out on those areas, just please exercise extra caution. And then lastly, to Councilmember Figueroa's point, 4th of July and fireworks always a time of great celebration, but always a time for potential of injuries and damage. So people, please just exercise good common sense when setting off fireworks. And that's pretty much it.
Well, thank you, Dr. Councilmember Fleming. Appreciate your kind, cautious words to our community here. I just want to give some updates. Since our last meeting on June 12th, we had the Curtis Senior High parade through town, and I know Councilmember Pro Tem Lee and Councilmember McCluskey were at Grandview and 27th Street cheering on our seniors. And at the end of the parade, Mayor Pro Tem Worthington, Chief Primo, and one of our newest deputies on our police patrol, Deputy Hammond, were there to also welcome the seniors and congratulate them, as well as Trader Joe's and Safeway had gift bags and cupcakes for each of the seniors that came through. And all I heard from those in attendance was that they hoped that this would become an annual event through the city. And as a citizen of University Place, with no longer having children in the school system, it was a nice reminder for me on what the newer generation is and what we have to look forward to, the enthusiasm and the sharpness and just there's hope in our future with our next generation. And so I do hope that the school district will organize it again next year. This is their parade. We as the city only participate as a participant, and we approve the routing, but we don't do anything other than that. So if there are citizens out there watching this evening that would like to see this event occur, I would highly encourage them to talk with the school administration, school board, and the PTA about it. And maybe we can get more of our community involved, more of our businesses involved in this parade, and thank the seniors for the hard work that they did and kind of connect the young generation with the business community where we sometimes lack. I also attended on behalf of Councilmember McCluskey and Councilmember Fleming the Pierce County Regional Council meeting last Thursday evening via Zoom. The meeting was basically dedicated to updates on policy changes that are going to be made to the county-wide planning policy so that they are in concurrence and alignment with the Vision 2050 plan. We on council have been introduced to some of those expected changes, but we will be talking about this more as the county finalizes their plans and we look to see that our plans are in alignment, because we need to be kind of in lockstep with it as it goes forward, because ultimately the county is responsible for compliance to the 2050 plan. I don't believe, based on what was discussed, that we have too many outlandish changes that we have to make, but there will be some forthcoming changes over the next year or two as this moves forward for us to review. Then sadly, I need to report on June 19th, Gerald, our former council member, Gerald Gehring's funeral was held, and was added in attendance were past mayors and council members, Debbie Klosowski, Linda Bird, and Ron Williams, as well as Mayor Pro Tem Worthington and myself, and the city manager representing the city. It was a fantastic turnout, a great service, and a wonderful way to remember the wonderful contributions that he made, not only as a council member, but as a businessman in our community, as a family member, and just an active and engaged citizen. It's sad that we wait until funerals to acknowledge the great work that individuals have done. I will be attending the memorial service for our prior council member, Lorna Smith, this Saturday, to also honor her and her contributions that she's not only made to the community, but to her family. So I'm ending on a sad note, unfortunately, but on a happier note, we have visible things that have been done in this community by these wonderful people, and we as council members will continue to support and to enhance as we move forward. So it's always nice when you're looking at a park and remembering the individuals that have done the sweat and tears to get that park in order, or you look at buildings that have been built since our incorporation in the streets and stuff, and realize that this was not done in isolation, but done by the hard work of our initial council, our current council, and many, many volunteers in the community. So I want to thank everybody for their work as we move forward. So with that, this section is closed. We will move on to our study session. Our next item on the agenda is the 6-year transportation improvement plan for 2022 to 2027. We review this every year to make sure that it's all up to date. So this should be a pretty easy study session for us to be updated on the changes that Mr. Eklund needs to make in the plan to make it in compliance for future grants, etc. So Mr. Eklund.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Mayor and City Council. As you mentioned tonight, I'm bringing to you for study the annual update to the city's 6-year transportation improvement plan. We are required by state law to adopt and annually update a 6-year transportation improvement plan, and this plan covers the years of 2022 to 2027. This has been a pretty, despite the kind of unusual year we've had world-wise, we've been pretty busy both engineering-wise and construction. And so there are actually quite a bit of changes we see in this year's TIP. To start off, there are 4 projects that are being removed from the TIP. The first two is Cirque Drive Phase 3, which we've recently completed. Also Larson Lane North, which was across the street there that we recently completed. Another project is the Alameda Extension, which we awarded earlier tonight, and will be completed by the end of the year. And then finally, Larson Lane Phase 1, which is the segment which is under construction by private development, and also will be done by the end of the year. That's where the apartments are going kind of behind where the former Burger King site is under construction. So in addition to that, we have added a new project. It's project number 8. It's labeled right now as the 38th Street West Improvements. That is for the construction of a new street between Lot 1 of the Town Center site and Homestead Park. It's reflective of the state grant that we received earlier, I guess last year. Which is the Town Center Main Street Redevelopment Phase 2 grant that we received. And then we've also have updating some funding statuses due to some recent grant awards. Project number 11, the 67th Avenue Phase 1, we've updated the funding status to show the grant award that we have for right-of-way funds. Project 12, 67th Phase 2, we have the secured grant funding for construction now. Project 20, the 35th Street Improvement Phase 2, we have the secured construction funding for that. And then Project 32, Grandview Overlay, which we have both secured design and construction money for that project. And then finally, we've updated various projects, schedules and costs. That's usually the run-of-the-mill one. That's almost usually our checkbox. Anyway. Finally, I just want to remind you that the approval of the 6-year transportation improvement plan does not commit the city to any financial expenditures. Rather, each year, the projects will be reviewed individually by the city council in each relevant budget cycle. And then approval of the 6-year plan does create some eligibility for the city for applied for certain grants. Many grant funding sources require a project in question to appear in a city's transportation improvement plan in order to be eligible for funding. And then in addition, our transportation plan provides an indication to other jurisdictions of the city's planning direction for our transportation needs. So So with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you, Mr. Eklund. Are there any questions of Mr. Eklund from the council? Councilmember McCluskey, I see your hand raised.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Eklund, and kudos to your engineering staff for securing all those great grants, millions and millions of dollars. So we appreciate you and your team. Also, I had a citizen question, and she had a question on Project 8, 38th Street West improvements. She was concerned that that road was going to take up Homestead Park property for the road going through that. So if you could publicly address that, I would be thankful for that.
Yeah, so the 38th Street project is entirely within what is currently part of Lot 1 of the town center site. And so we are we're doing a binding site plan amendment currently, or the surveyors are drafting that up to designate that new right-of-way segment, but that will not be touching the Homestead Park property, the parcel there.
All right, thank you. Hopefully she's listening, and if not, I'll email her back with your answer, so I appreciate that. Thank you, Jack.
Okay. Any other questions from council members? Wow, you guys are very easy tonight. Thank you. I don't see any questions, so I want to thank you, Mr. Eklund.
Thank you.
Okay, we're on to our final item for this evening. It's the Alameda Extension designation, and it's Mr. Eklund again, since it is regarding roads.
Yeah, and I'd like to, well, thank you, Madam Mayor and City Council. As mentioned, this is a study session for the name designation for the Alameda Extension, the project that we just awarded. Amanda, I don't know if you could bring up the map exhibit that kind of help facilitate the conversation. Let's see. All right, can everybody see that okay?
Yep.
All right, so the area in the middle where we label Alameda Extension area, that's the, you can kind of see the two arrows there. That's the construction area. Yep, that's highlighted. That's the area that we're constructing now. Up off, when you head from that area up towards Cirque, it's Alameda Avenue. On the other side of that, where it is heading towards 67th, it's currently named 67th Street West. Or 62nd, sorry, 62nd Street West. And then another issue is, to add a little bit of mud there, is in the actual alignment of where we have the straight portion of Alameda, which kind of goes from, Cirque north. Well, down below in that area that's that neighborhood that's just to the, north of like the Meadow Park Golf Course, that area there is currently a street, Alameda Avenue there. And so we have a dual street over the same area. And especially we would have that if we, once we connect the street, if we remain the name Alameda Avenue. One of the things, so there's that potential conflict there. One thing to note, the portion that is the curvy section, let's call it, there are no addresses off of that. There are no people physically addressed off of that street or the 62nd Street for that matter. However, the Alameda Avenue to the south there are several residents that are addressed off of that. The other thing to note is just naming designations. So normally you see streets that run, east to west, and avenues run north to south. And so obviously here we're starting going one direction and we're ending in the other direction. And so one thing that we note, the street, if you have a drive or something like that, there's not a convention for that. And so what we are recommending is we would look at changing the name of both Alameda Avenue south of Cirque in the curvy section, as well as 62nd Street where it runs into 67th there, and name the whole segment Alameda Drive. And so it still has the recognizability, the name of Alameda, you're still recognizing it, so people wouldn't be too confused, but it would eliminate the conflict that we have with the address and wayfinding down at the other Alameda Avenue. I think that's just kind of the gist of it, and I wanted to open it up to hear your thoughts and see if you have any questions on it.
Thank you, Mr. Eklund. Are there any questions or comments that council would like to make on this proposed name change? Council Member Fleming, you raised your hand.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. You know, Jack, as you were talking, I was trying to figure out how you were going to make that work. And things were flowing through my head of, you know, do we change the Alameda Avenue West down in the Meadow Park Golf Course area? But your proposal makes total sense in what you're proposing. I'm just wondering, for the sake of continuity, if it would make also sense to enter into a conversation with Furcrest to see if they would entertain the continuation of that street beyond the roundabout. I mean, if they say no, it's okay, but if they say yes, great. But I think your proposal makes total sense. So, thank you.
Sure, and the only issue that could get in is anything north of the roundabout. There are people that are directly addressed off of that portion of Alameda, so you do get into physical address changes and issues with the post office. But it's certainly something we can explore if you guys like.
Yeah, you know, you and I had a previous conversation about that, and I had to step back and do some thinking. And I recall, it's been quite a few years back when the town of Steilacoom did a realignment of its streets and renaming, and it affected a lot more people than we have here in UP in terms of addresses. But, you know, they coordinated with the post office. We made the street alignments and the street name changes. And it, you know, there was a process that they put into place, so people had plenty of time to make the notifications to their friends, neighbors, businesses, what have you, and it worked well. It really depends on how well we execute that when we make the final decision one way or another to do that, but clearly very doable with what you're proposing here.
Are there any other questions or comments from council? I think you had an excellent presentation there, Mr. Eklund. I like your rationale, and I think it looks very doable. And I do agree with Council Member Fleming that maybe for continuity's sake, just entertaining a conversation with our neighboring jurisdiction would be a good move.
Yeah, I'll certainly reach out to them and get their thoughts.
Yeah, but I don't see any problems in moving forward on our end to at least align it within University Place. Okay. Any other comments or questions? Final call. Well, guys, I hate to say it, but this is the earliest we've ever ended a scheduled meeting. I want to thank everybody for their participation, and hearing no further discussion, I will be adjourning the meeting. Go and enjoy the sunshine and stay cool, people. Look out for your neighbors and check on the elderly as we have some hot weather coming up, and it would be a shame that we have some people that would have some difficulty during the upcoming hot weather. So stay cool and be neighborly. Thanks.
Thank you, Mayor.